All right, good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully, you can hear me. We're live and we're talking shaft today, golf shaft, because it's a fun subject, one I think we can still really discuss and hopefully get each other's ideas and learn a lot from. I've got a few questions from you. We got the chat running up here as well. Let's go, Ahmed. Indeed. What else is everyone saying? Are you there? There's no time like the present. Greg. Hello, Greg. Hi from Edward. Hello, Edward. So we've got the chat running. I've got some questions from you. We're going to talk golf shaft today. So we're going to really delve into the deep kind of, well, not that deep maybe, but some ideas of what it affects it has on, say, your golf shots, how you strike the ball, those kind of ideas. So we're going to kick it off just with some of my ideas that I found through, luckily, the years of getting to talk to much cleverer people than me and watching studies and being presented studies or people presenting their studies to me and what they found with shaft, which hopefully I can now rely on you. So to start us off, does shaft flex affect strike? So does it affect where you strike on the face? Yes, it absolutely does, while at the same time, no, it doesn't. So what I mean by that is that, yes, I've seen plenty of people be affected by what shaft you put into the club. Not flex so much, but generally weight and flex more, the combination of, and often they come so much together as well. And less now as we move on, as people are trying to sell more shafts, those kind of things. But we do see strike moved by putting different shafts in there for people. So yes, it has an effect. But there are plenty of people where it absolutely has no effect. And often if you break down the measurements and you test them long enough, it becomes very obvious that their preconceptions of what that club should be doing are what is affecting that strike overall. Because yes, you affect the strike in the short term. So in the fit, we'll hopefully touch on this point a bit more as we go through. So you're hitting shots and they're hitting everything out the heel or out the toe, and you change the shaft and the strike moves into a better place, so on and so forth. And off they go, they're fixed. Well, you don't see that happen very often at all, as in you see it happen in the process of a fit. But for someone who's coached for so many years, what I see is people move strike, but over time, they simply come back to their defaults. 9.9 times out of 10, they come back to their defaults. So the more you do that with students, the more you start thinking, how much of that was a placebo? How much was that of a different feel compared to something that actually has changed their movement patterns forever? So I think it can. I know it can. I've seen it change people's delivery in how they line up the center of gravity to the center of gravity of that ball, so strike. But do I see it sustain? Absolutely not. I see them go back to their patterns as a general rule. So certainly a great tool to use. Is it a fix? I don't think it is. What is the kick point of the shaft? Someone's saying there. When are you going to see a golf video with you wearing that straw hat? Yeah, one up there. Soon, hopefully. If I keep me locked up in here long enough, we'll be able to see loads. Let's get stuck in. Bed Stewart in the comments. Been wondering why I shouldn't get graphite shafts in the irons instead of steel. Perhaps you and coach could do a test. Phil, yeah, I think that might be even on one of our questions, so we'll hopefully come back to that. Okay, next point I want to just touch on. Does shaft affect delivery? So does shaft affect delivery in a way that would stop you slicing, stop you hooking, hit the ball lower, higher, make you hit less from out to in, those kind of ideas? Very much like the strike. Yes, and equally, unfortunately, no. Again, it's so player specific, and the same as with strike, if you do affect a delivery, the player generally defaults back over time. And I don't mean time over years, often it's time as in like a week or two. They default back to their kind of standard deliveries, if you like. Yes, I see more success in maybe bringing flights down or slightly raising, but again, they override them in no time. I see a little bit of left and right deviation pulling, you can see, and you definitely see it in fits. But again, those deviations just come back out because basically face the path is so minuscule, like tiny bits affected, that the player just overrides them very quickly to go back again to their default movement patterns. And this is the thing I think, and I'm biased obviously, but this is the thing I think you see as a coach over a fitter. I mean, how many fitters see their students or customers for, 6 weeks, 2 years, 3 years on a row? This is where, if you actually want to really dial down into any golf coach who teaches a lot and is a successful coach and thinks about shaft into their fittings, they don't start with shaft because they know the movement patterns of what really are going to define everything. Where often a fitter, I mean, maybe post in the comments, when did you last see your fitter and on how regular basis do you see your fitter? Like, you'll see a fitter once, you won't see him again for 2 years, 6 months, 3 years, 10 years, ever again. Even where a golf coach sees the development of these placebos and how they kind of, how the player always comes back to kind of ruining the show or not. And it does then make you start to think, what real effect did that have? And often the golf coach can have, I think, a much bigger effect. I agree with Tom. Shafts doesn't matter. Songs do. Okay, in the comments. Let's see the guitars for show. If you can play them as good as your golf. Tom, go on my Instagram. There's me playing them on yesterday. I'm going to do a bit more because people seem to like that. So interesting. I think really what happens is that it always defaults back to the player. Then the last point I wanted to make before we dive into the questions, can you use any shaft? Again, absolutely no, you can't, while at the same time, yes, you can. It depends what you want to get out of your golf. If you are looking to improve that 0.5%, which maybe you all are, yeah, you can't use any shaft. There'll be one that gives you feels that make it harder for you to deliver the numbers you want, or it gives a ball flight that you don't like the look of. If that makes you a better or worse player, again, that's often not measured. And that's the thing I always think was quite interesting with equipment, how reluctant golfers are to actually really measure the effects long term that their purchase having, because obviously it's much easier just to enjoy your purchase, isn't it? It's much easier to just enjoy the fact that you've bought something new, and that inspires you to go out and play more on those kinds of things. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. But the actual effects it's having over time on your scores, it's an interesting study that people often want to run away from. So does it affect strike? Yes, it can. Does it affect delivery? Yeah, absolutely. Can you use any shaft? Not really. But on the flip side of all those points, you can as well, depending on how you want to monitor the actual results. If you're slicing the ball, if you get the face closed to a path, you'll stop slicing it. Full stop. If a shaft can get a face closed to a path, well, you're going to have to be so minuscule out with your face to the path for that shaft to do its do, that you're probably almost there already. And if you can't move it that extra little bit, then you are lacking some skills. Skills that you're going to need out on the golf course. That's the key statement that hopefully you can hold on to much more with this little shaft video today. All right, should we go into some questions? These were posted to me on Twitter. Since you once fitted quite a few peeps, I'd love to hear your unique stories or anomalies. Are you a shaftoid anomaly, Mark? Great question. I used to fit and coach full time. Loads of people would come through for fits and for lessons, and I still see them really as the same thing. If I have people for lessons, I need to look at their equipment to check that they're not making any gaffes in there, because if I can get a win in their equipment, it's a cheap win. Before I move any of their movement patterns, I will always take it. So I see them as the same. Now, I went from doing fittings and lessons, and they were sold and there were packages of different things. As soon as I started getting really busy in the videos and people were coming from all around the world to get help, I stopped calling them fits. And the reason I stopped calling them fits, and this is the reasons why I do some of the shaft flex videos I've done, which seem to confuse people, is that I was getting people from all around the world coming, trying every shaft in the studio. Well, they didn't have control of the face. Their face was 6 to 10 degrees open to a path, and they were searching in the shaft bag for the fit. And it used to demoralize me. I used to just think you're not going to find the answer to 6 to 10 degrees of face control in there, I'm afraid. But they're there for their fit, so you feel like you had to deliver the package. So I actually stopped calling them fit. If people phoned up and said they wanted a fit, I got the staff on the phone to explain that all fits are lessons. So you'll book a lesson. If we can improve your equipment, we will. If your technique is worse and that needs improving, we'll tell you that. It's not about selling you golf clubs. It's about making you better. And we'll use all the avenues we've got to try and make you better, is how we tried to sell it. So, yeah, that's the only real kind of anomaly. I stopped actually doing them and calling them lessons. Why do you think amateur handicap golfers are obsessed with the shaft flex when realistically it has no impact on the scorecard they submit after the weekly medal? That kind of goes into my points there. I think it's so much personality based. And you see it online as well. I see it in comments and I see it on social posts. I see you can tell who wants to nerd out about golf and who wants to just be better. And the unfortunate bit is the nerd out people about golf are often the more vocal voices in your clubs or online, because they'll use words where they feel like they understand every little kind of, bit of the shaft, and you don't even understand what words they're using. They think they're on like an upper level. We're actually, like I said earlier, people searching in that shaft bag for the answer. And I've seen this on tour ranges, and me and the tour fitter look at each other like, the answer's not in these shafts that we're testing. I always feel sorry for them, but unfortunately they seem the bigger voices, don't they? They're often the bigger voices, and that's why I think then people get a little bit fixated with it. Now, unfortunately, this clip just shoots off my edit here, but it says basically, does stiffer shafts promote a slice for swing speeds that are below 100 miles an hour? Again, back to my other point, swing speeds to shaft flex, the reason people have got obsessed with swing speeds and shaft flexes kind of matching or combining is because what happens in companies is that the club builders will go, right, we're going to put these shafts in these heads, there's your matches. And then the marketers have to then tell you whatever the stories are they're trying to tell. So what the marketers do will simplify. Because simplify sells. Look at YouTube. It's like if you simplify things, people buy it. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. And for lots, unfortunately, they don't care if it's right or wrong. It's just if it's simple, it's easy to understand. It's almost a combination to the Sun newspaper to a more highbrow newspaper, I think, in the UK. So what happens is to simplify those messages, it was slow needs regular and stiff needs this and all those kind of things. Where actually, that's not true. The more you test with individuals, like again, the individual and the way they deliver that club and what affects it is so individual to them, and the way they react to how that shaft feels rather than the marketed ideas of regular for this speed and so on. So the more you can move away from that, I think the better you'll be. And then the more it'll make you test. And that's the most important thing, that you go out there and test to find out your winning combination. And one last question here from Twitter. Should we all try a spectrum of different weight shafts in order to find the fastest swing speed potential? Are you missing out in our iron play by sticking with steel over graphite? From Adam. So back to the point there in the chat. Hi Graham in the chat. Afternoon chap. Hi. We use fire to heat the soup, coach. Oh, Matt's in there, is he? I'm home isolating, are you, Matt? Well done. Get your editing done, bruh. So yeah, I mean, I've been guilty of it. So I've started using counterbalance shaft, which I'm going to do more on. It's definitely affecting my swing speed by a few miles an hour. If I see the benefits of that out on the course, well, you'll see as I film it all, and that's the beauty of it. So what I love about that is I use counterbalance. I get slightly quicker. You get a few people going, oh, I see shaft flex, shaft does matter, shaft matters. Well, let's see if my scores improve, shall we? Again, it might make me feel better. It might make me feel I can top end out a bit better. If I then can use that on a golf course, and if it makes any difference to my score, goes back to the yes, no, yes, no, yes, no answers I gave to those first points at the start. Now, do enough people try different shafts? Probably not. I'm definitely seeing some interesting changes in swing speed with a lighter shaft, but then when we do the tests with coach and with other players, you don't see those changes, which again reiterates my point. It's about the individual. It's about what the player looks at when they hit a shot, what they want to look at, what they feel, what that shaft makes them feel they can do on a golf course. I feel I can hit it higher with this shaft. Cool, go for it. Hit it higher. That's great. If it's true or not, you can choose to measure that or ignore that. If you feel better about it, that's a good thing. For me, the head is going to far outweigh what the shaft is able to do for you. But you can't swing a club without a golf shaft in it, so you need one. So you need one that you like the feel of. You need one that you feel like you can perform with. I think the biggest problem is people want shafts pigeonholed. So these shafts do this, and these ones do that, and those ones do that. That's the biggest problem. Every golf shaft that's out there can have an effect on the way you deliver, strike, or if you choose to use it or not. But again, it will be so personal to you, which is why for the last, I don't know how many years, I've been asking you all to make sure you go and get fit, go and try clubs, those kind of ideas. Post comments down below. Let me know, what do you think? What's, have you got a golf shaft that you just love or hate, one that you can't use that can use? And also, when we're allowed out of our houses again, anyone who has these strong opinions about what they can and can't use, love to get you down to Honiton and into the studio, film some videos. We want to do more open house testing. We've just been obviously stopped by what's going on at the minute, and everyone stay safe and do stay indoors. If your government is telling you to do that, let's just bleed this thing out so it's got nowhere else to go. We'll get you down and let's talk. And I want to meet the people who show me that shaft makes a massive difference for their game as much as the ones that it don't, because it's all great and I want to learn from them as much as anybody else. Should we end with some of the comments in the old chat room here? Everyone's chatting away. Soup is ready. People enjoy your soup, Matt. I'm probably gonna have some soup as well. Mark, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? Matt, maybe post comments down below. Do you want me to do a podcast? I could turn this into a podcast. Happily do one. Because I don't really listen to podcasts, they're never really on my horizon. I thought about it years ago, and I don't really listen to them. But I'm sure lots of you do, and if you want to hear my thoughts or me and Matt's thoughts on a podcast, again, down below in that comment section, let us know. Remember, if you're not subscribed to this video, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Loads of lives are coming, and I've got loads of videos on back catalogue, so we've got loads of new ones coming as well. Don't worry about that. Plenty on golf courses also. Let's see what else people are saying. Do you think people want, where's that one gone? I've lost you. Where have you gone? Do you think people want it pigeonholed so they can buy them off the shelf and not fitted? Ben, no, I think people want them pigeonholed because that works in their brain. They don't want golf to be what it is, which is organic. They want it to be structured. So like I said at the start, it's often about the personality of the person when it comes to the conversations about shaft compared to actually the reality of what it does. Some great independent studies out there. RNA presented one to loads of golf pros. I was sat in the talk years ago where they did a test on amateurs using two groups of shafts. I won't show you how to do the test because we might actually repeat it. And they showed that shaft flex made no difference, which was quite interesting, that you've got a governing body saying that. Independent study. They just wanted to know. Because at the end of the day, if shaft flex did make a difference, it gave a specific advantage, it would be banned. Because the whole point of golf is that you are the main thing. That's the mission statement of the RNA USGA. It's about you. So I often find these conversations quite funny because you've got the people who govern the game telling you quite clearly that it's about you and nothing else. There's a few parameters inside that bracket, but it's all about you. Anything that comes into golf that makes golf easier, it will be banned. It's going to be about you always. Let's see, one more then. Are you made for shafts? Are the made for shafts some clubs come with a waste of time then? Mark Disney, I don't know if you're asking me that or are you having a chat with someone else in there. Absolutely not. I've always used stock shafts within reason, sometimes don't, and it makes no difference. Coach uses a very unstock shaft. He's hitting fairway at the minute, but we all know he's going to miss plenty. It makes him feel better at a time. There you go, kind of stuff. Right, thank you. Enjoy your lunches. Stay inside if you're in the UK. I'm locked up for the next 2 weeks. Plenty more lives. If you've got any ideas on subjects you want me to try and tackle in lives, post in that comment section down below. I will look through all the comments and pick out the best ones. And we can have another lunchtime chat maybe soon. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. and stay safe, everybody.